Hello! Read it here. Today we're going to read a story from our /entitled parents. Now, for our first story. My dog sent entitled parent and her kid to jail. Many years ago, I was living in a beautiful sunny southern state. I had a cute little house that was completely fenced in. 5-foot fence in front, 8 fence on the sides, and a 10 chain link fence in the back. I'm fortunate enough to work from home. My office was my patio unless it was raining. My dog, Sari, German Shepherd / Rottweiler mix, kept me company. At a year old, she was a big girl at 120 pounds. She was generally very sweet and kind, but protective. She was well trained, but also had a knack for disappearing to play with her animal friends. So I kept her on a chain too if we were outside. High school kids in the area had the tendency to use the alleyway behind my house to get to and from school. Most would stop and say hi to Sari and give her attention. She loved it. I honestly didn't mind. One day, I noticed that any time Sari was alone outside, some kids would rattle the back fence, throw things at it, then scream and yell at Sari. The kids would run off before I could see who they were. In case things got worse, I bought some security cameras and brought Sari with me anytime I went inside when the kids would be around. One day, I had to grab some work in the house and left Sari outside. Just for a moment. From inside, I heard the fence rattle and then Sari yelp in pain. I rushed outside just in time to see a kid try to throw a rock at Sari, along with some other kids. I was pissed. As I rushed over to Sari, I calmly asked them, "Did it ever occur to you to wonder why I keep my dog chained in fence yard?" Then I unhooked her. Sari ran at my back fence and climbed over it. The kids started running down the alley with Sari right behind them, barking away. I let her go about 1/2 block, then whistled for her. She came trotting back, all happy as can be. I checked her over and gave her a treat. She was fine. A couple of hours later, one of the kids came back with his mother entitled parent, EP. EP, screaming, "You fucking bitch. You had your dog attack my son. He was only having a fun time. He's just a boy. Kid was at least 16 years old. You scared him. It was just a joke. You had no right to do that. I'm calling the police and having that dog fucking shot." Blah, blah, blah. I literally couldn't get a word in. Then she starts threatening me. So I call the police. The operator could hear her playing as day, even though EP was at least 40 feet from me. The police showed up in about 5 minutes. 2 cars. I guess they were in the area. 4 officers. All very nice guys. 2 officers come talk to me. The other 2 talked to EP and her son. EP never stopped screaming and cussing. I explained what happened and showed the video to the officers. Show all of Sari's vet and training paperwork. I filed a report, asked to press charges. The officers are petting Sari all the while because she's demanding attention from her new friends. She has her happy face on. Yes, Sari actually smiles. The 3 of us and Sari, on a leash, go outside toward the other group. We're about 10 feet from them when Sari suddenly cuts in front of me to stop me and starts growling. The skin around her face went tight, making it look like a hair-covered skull. The hair on her back raises up. Sari is very scary when she's like that. EP screaming, "See, that bitch raised that dog to attack black people. Fucking racist cunt. That fucking dog needs to be put down." The 2 officers that were with me were African American. So, no, that part always annoys me, so I included it. I called back one of the officers that I had been talking to. He didn't want to come too close as Sari is showing large teeth. So I moved back towards my house. As quietly as I could, I told the officer that either EP or kid were carrying a gun. That's why Sari started getting protective. It had happened several times before. I guess to err on the side of caution, or to shut me up, he decided to search EP and Kid. EP had an unregistered gun. Kid had a 6-inch switchblade, not legal in that state. So, in addition to a charge of animal cruelty, they got nailed for carrying a concealed weapon, being in possession of a firearm while on probation, resisting arrest, and a couple of other charges. EP never stopped screaming the entire time this happened, and while being driven away. I don't think that's how EP or Kid expected to end the day, but I enjoyed it. Even better, I never saw her or her kid again, and the kids stopped harassing Sari. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Wow, this could have turned out very differently. I think such a person would actually try to shoot your dog. Luckily, the police arrived on time, and everything turned out okay. Comment 2. I had some neighbor kids who liked to taunt my shepherds through a 5-foot chain link fence. Went to their house and talked to their mother. Asked her to control her kids, and she didn't take me seriously, so I called my dogs. Both jumped the fence and came up. Pointed out the 8-foot training wall in my yard and asked if she had ever seen my dogs doing protection work or running up the 8-foot wall. Didn't have a problem with those kids again. Comment 3. I wish someone had done that to the family that used to live in our house. We just bought a house, and the lady next door says the family that used to live here would climb up the shared fence and throw things at her dogs and yell at them and stuff. And the dogs are only small as show dogs, so they wouldn't be able to climb a fence or anything, so they just got traumatized. Now we're living here, we have to deal with them barking and going crazy every time we go near the fence. BC, they've been conditioned to expect shit from this side of the fence. Now, for our second story. This is how you deal with an EM. Speak another language. I always thought these crazy people who don't mind their own business must be a rare breed and that I would never encounter one of them, but somehow I did. So a little bit of background before I start. I was born in Pakistan, but came to Canada when I was 3. But by that time, I could already speak in Urdu, Punjabi, and Hindi. The languages are fairly similar in many regards. And then I came to Canada, and English was my 4th language. As I grew up, I also learned Arabic, French, and Japanese to varying competencies, but all within the realm of conversational. Having grown up in Canada, I have no accent when I speak in English, so you wouldn't be able to tell me apart from a Caucasian person if you spoke with me over the phone. But also having learned so many languages, I'm able to pronounce a lot of sounds fairly accurately, so I sound authentic in all languages that I speak into all but native speakers. Most of the languages that I know sound different enough from each other that someone that doesn't know them can still tell that the language is different. I've traveled back home to Pakistan a few times, and I would always encounter those beggars who come with elaborate stories. Like, my wife is sick and she needs surgery, and I managed to get money for that, but I need money for the flight to reach her, etc. I came up with a fun counter to that, which was that I would act like I didn't understand them at all and would start speaking in a different language that they wouldn't know. Japanese was my go-to language while in Pakistan. The reaction those people would have was quite hilarious. As per apparently new rules, instead of acronyms, I'll use fake names. I'll keep them all 5-letter names, so the columns line up decently enough. So anyway, on to my story now. The cast. Karen, the star of the show. Jimmy, Karen's husband, and a decent human being. Zarif, me, wifey, my wife. Singh, restaurant manager. So my wife and I were at an Indian restaurant in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, enjoying our dinner and having a conversation. We speak in a mix of Urdu and English, just mixing with whatever feels easy. To someone listening in, they would be able to understand enough to figure out what we were talking about in most cases. We were sitting at a booth table, so it was only open from one side. Karen and her family, Jimmy, and her 2 daughters that looked like they were in their early teens, were sitting at an open table with an empty table between us. My wife is Pakistani like me, and what some Pakistanis like to do is eat rice with their hands. I prefer a spoon myself, but at this time my wife was eating with her hands. Apparently this Karen got offended at seeing my wife eat with her hands. When she came over, I started speaking in different languages, acting like I didn't understand what she was saying in English. I'll translate what I said and put in parentheses which language I said it in. Here's how it went. Karen walks over to our table with a sour expression on her face. Jimmy calls to her, telling her to sit back down and leave us alone, but she ignored him. She addresses my wife directly. Karen, what's wrong with you? Can't you eat your food in a civilized manner like the rest of us? Zarif, Urdu, huh? What do you want? Can't you see we're eating? Karen looks at me with surprise. Karen, what did you just say? Zarif, Urdu. To wifey, don't talk to her in English. Just do what I'm doing. Zarif, Urdu. To Karen, you're just a crazy woman. Go sit back down. Karen, why aren't you speaking in English? My wife starts smiling, and I try hard to keep a straight face. Wifey, Urdu. We're just enjoying our meal. Why don't you go and sit down? Karen, I just heard you speaking in English. I know you can talk in English. Zarif, Urdu. Yeah, I can, but I choose to not do so. Wifey. Urdu. To Zarif. I think she's getting upset. Zarif. Urdu. To wifey. I know. That's what makes this so much fun. Karen, stop it. Talk in English like I heard you before. Zarif. Japanese. So you were listening in on our conversation? Don't you have any manners? Karen, wait, that's some other language now. What the hell is this? Jimmy, leave them alone, Karen. They don't speak English. Karen, I know they do. They're just pretending not to. Jimmy, it doesn't matter, just sit down. I start waving toward her table. Zarif, Japanese. That's right. Go back to your table, you loud cow. Jimmy, Karen, they aren't doing anything wrong. Leave them alone. Karen, she's eating with her hands. I can't let the girls learn her uncivilized ways. Zarif, Hindi. To wifey, start licking your fingers. My wife starts licking the rice on her right hand off the top parts of her fingers, and that makes Karen rage even more. Karen, oh my God, look at how gross she is being. Jimmy, stop looking at her if you don't like it then. Zarif, Arabic. Hey, you dumb bitch. Do you behave this way everywhere you go? Karen, he changed languages again. I know he did. His accent changed. Zarif, Japanese. Yep, and I can keep changing. Karen, speak in English. Jimmy, you must have heard them wrong. They don't know English. Leave them alone. Karen, then why are they living here? They don't deserve to live here if they don't know English. I was having a hard time keeping a straight face, so I disguised it by raising my voice and appearing angry. I gestured towards her and then pointed at her table. Zarif, Arabic. Are you so dumb you can't even listen to your husband? Go sit down and stop embarrassing yourself. Karen, you don't deserve to be here. Get out. At this point, the restaurant's manager, Singh, shows up to see what all the commotion was about. He's an Indian guy with a pretty heavy accent when he spoke in English, so I knew he'd speak either Hindi or Punjabi. Singh, excuse me, can you please keep your voice down? What is going on here? Karen, this woman is eating with her hands, and it's disgusting. She's corrupting my children with her barbaric ways. Singh, ma'am, there are no rules that forbid her from eating with her hands. Please leave them alone, or I'll have to ask you to leave. Now Jimmy gets up and comes over to where Karen is. Jimmy, sit down, Karen. You've embarrassed yourself enough. This is why I can't take you anywhere. Zarif, Punjabi, ignore this dumb cow. Her brain is smaller than a laddu, an Indian sweet. The manager starts laughing at my comment, and Karen gets even redder in the face since she thinks we're making fun of her. Karen, all of you should go back to your country. Jimmy just takes her arm and leads her back to their table and sits her down, telling her to shut up. Her daughters look like they want to sink into the floor from embarrassment. I ramble a few more sentences in varying languages as a kind of venting before my wife tells me to just leave it alone. We finish our dinner about 10 minutes later, with Karen glaring at us the whole time. I go pay the bill, and as we were walking out of the restaurant, we pass near Karen's table. I call out to Jimmy in perfect English, with no accent, while smiling, and I give him a wave. Zarif, hey buddy, I hope you enjoy your dinner. Have a good night. Karen's eyes bulge as she screams. Karen, I knew it. See, they know English. She tried to stand up suddenly, but instead ended up falling over backwards in her seat. My wife and I left the restaurant laughing before she could do anything else. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Intelligence 100. Destruction 100. Speech infinity. Comment 2. I'm a native English speaker, but no Mandarin, Spanish, and a little French. However, my brain mixes them up completely when I try to speak in anything but English. I'll usually come out with 45% Mandarin, 45% Spanish, and 10% English. It's incredibly weird, especially considering one is tonal and the others aren't. My written skills are fine, but the part of my brain that deals with speaking foreign languages must have had a stroke, which is my way of saying I'm very impressed with your language skills. Comment 3. I feel you. I used to be bilingual in English, first language, and Spanish. Then I moved to Quebec and started learning French. Now I'm bilingual in English and French-Spanol. It fucking hurts my brain so much to try to speak either Spanish or French now that I inevitably end up switching back and forth between the two like 3 times per sentence. At least I can read and understand both. Now, for our third story. Karen secretly films me jogging and shows video to my boss. I recently had an emergency appendectomy, and recovery has been slow. I had to take time off from my own athletics, but worse, from coaching in the kids' sport program I'm involved with. The experience made me step back and realize I really built my whole identity around being active and healthy. So the hit my physical abilities took as a result of being sick plus the healing process has made me feel lost. I've been working to regain the joy I used to experience from exercise without going, oh, you used to be so much faster with that, or your technique used to be so much stronger, or you don't fit in anymore, or whatever else, and just enjoy myself regardless of the level I'm at. But ironically, the anxiety about not being able to do what I used to has made regaining those abilities difficult. It made me self-conscious about exercising in public spaces, but I was starting to finally get over it as friends convinced me the source of the concerns were all in my head. There's no way to get back to it other than training. So, despite the anxiety, I started running again, as soon as the doctors approved it. I went to the local track and just did a few slow laps each morning, building up speed every few days, and I've only just been authorized to add some sprints and body weight strength training to the mix. Occasionally, there were other people at the track, but I didn't really notice because I run with headphones on and try to zone out in these lighter sessions. But little did I know my friends were wrong. It was not all in my head, I was being watched, and more than that, I was being judged. My absolute catastrophe-level worst nightmare at this stage of building back my strength and speed. On Friday, I was setting up for practice at the kids program, and the head coach asked me into his office because a parent had a complaint. A parent I know too well, Karen, was there, and he said she had specific complaints about me. The meeting almost didn't happen because of Karen's initial refusal to put on a mask, required in our facilities for now. But eventually her desire to tell on me for whatever she thought she had me on overrode her freedoms to infect everyone. I was a bit nervous as anyone is being called to meet with their boss over a complaint, but I figure it was a classic case of my kid should start more, or I know my kid tried out as a midfielder, but I want her to switch to defense, that kind of rules don't apply to me thing. But instead, I sit down in the office and Karen is playing my boss a video of me running on the track that she filmed from afar. It's surrounded by stadium-style risers. I was horrified, both because no one is ever totally used to seeing themselves on video, and because I was just embarrassed about how slow I was. But most importantly, because why was a virtual stranger? I'd met her personally maybe 4 times, ever filming me while I ran on my own time at a private facility. She then went on to explain that her 8-year-old son, one of the players on my squad, was lapping me in the video and insisting the coaches need to hold themselves to higher athletic standards than the young players if they want to prepare them for college teams. Again, her son is 8. Apparently her son would sometimes be running on the track while her older child was practicing on a nearby field. I never noticed. The kid is still relatively new, and I don't pay much attention to the other people on the track. My boss patiently but firmly explained to Karen that my physical abilities are not the parents' concern, and all personnel are closely managed by the head coaches who understand each unique situation and what's appropriate, and that her son wouldn't be impacted. Karen then went on to say my being out of shape was probably connected to why I'd been taking so much time off lately. Technically, yes, it is because I was in the hospital and complaining that the personnel changeover isn't good for the kids. My boss again reiterated that the head coaches hadn't changed or taken any time off and that I was still one of the most skilled in the area I instruct. So this was not her concern. She asked if there was someone else she could speak to, but he explained that he was the owner and founder of this program. So no, there was not. I knew my boss was intentionally avoiding saying what had happened to me, or even alluding to a health issue, to protect my privacy, but I figured maybe being transparent with her would show her how ridiculous she was being and keep her tuition dollars in our program during a difficult time for sports clubs. But when I explained, she just turned to the boss and said, well, maybe you should furlough her until she's healed and bring on a healthy coach in the meantime, because my son needs someone out there who can keep up with him. My boss respected what I was trying to do but made clear we weren't going further with that strategy to avoid setting a precedent of sharing coaches' personal circumstances. Telling her why people take time off or what their health status may be is not her concern because the program manages that and makes appropriate decisions. She kept kicking up a fuss, but the coach finally told her he had to get back out on the field, back to her son and everyone else's kids. She started physically leaving, but continued fussing about how she was not satisfied and would not be recommending us to other parents. Pro tip: not the way to conduct yourself with the people who make recommendations to scouts concerning family culture/team interaction. The coach wasn't preparing to leave. Instead, he stopped her in her tracks to tell her if she was found to be surveilling or otherwise harassing any staff members again, she would be permabanned from the program. No games or practices, no team social events, no presence in our buildings, and no clemency. So, that was pretty satisfying. Her son is a good, average kid, and I'm glad the consequences were focused on booting her out rather than limiting his opportunities to have fun playing. So then we went out and had a great, happy, safe practice. This was still a pretty upsetting event for me personally though, and I'll never unsee that discouraging video of me running, but it was ultimately reassuring to know the other staff have my back. Leaving Karen in the dust is just another step on my road to recovery. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. I love how your boss really got your back. Hopefully Karen isn't going to be a setback to your revovery. Comment 2. As a person who has always wanted to be in better shape than I am, and who seems to work out seasonally, I feel the anxiety in starting a workout knowing you're not where you used to be. Something that has worked for me at times is to write down my repetitions or laps or whatever stat I'm actively working to improve and check it at weeks and to see that I am progressing. Not every day is better than the last, but the weeks usually are. This helps me not focus on my weight, not changing since I can prove to my own inner demons that I am making progress. I also find that yoga is great for that kind of positive feedback, since of all the workouts I've tried, I've always noticed improved flexibility sooner than any other physical improvement. I hope some part of this helps you, or that you find something else to ward off those more toxic self-doubts. Good luck at you. You got this. Comment 3. I'm confused why the boss even brought it up to OP. Sounded to me like the whole situation was going nowhere with the boss, so there is no reason to bring her into the office. I know we don't have all the details, but I would have just refunded Karen and asked her to leave. And did Karen expect Michael Phelps coach could do laps around him? What does one's own physical ability have to do with teaching a sport? Andy Reid has gone to many Super Bowls, and I'd be hard-pressed to see him run even a lap. Now, for our fourth story. EM broke my $55,000 wheelchair. Dear entitled mother, thank you so very much for your complete and utter lack of patience when getting on the bus, which resulted in breaking part of my $55,000 wheelchair and me needing to call the police for help. So I was on the bus tonight heading to a workshop that I was fairly excited for. Things were great until slightly before my stop when two adults got on, one with a toddler and the other wheeling a stroller. It is strict corporate policy that all strollers must be folded before being brought onto the bus, but not enough drivers actually enforce it, and this was one of those monster Cadillac strollers to boot. EM brought her unfolded stroller on the bus, and seeing the front entirely occupied by disabled people, including myself, decided to push past toward the back. Only, her behemoth of a stroller wouldn't fit in the space available, and she started ramming it along my wheelchair to plow it through. Me, hey, watch it. EM keeps trying to squeeze through. Me, careful. I can feel you tugging at stuff. EM doesn't stop. Finally, she managed to push through and move back. I fumed for the next few blocks, pushed the button for my stop, turned on my wheelchair, and got a left brake disconnected error. I tried again. Repeated errors. The next several minutes were spent with the bus pulled over, passengers getting mad at me for causing a delay, while I panicked trying to figure out how to get off the bus. Finally, a guy flipped my electric/freewheel release switch on and off several times, and that managed to convince my chair to work for me to get off my bus and get about 15 feet away before my chair suddenly turned itself off. I turned it back on. It started throwing up a charger inhibit error, which basically is the error you get when you try to start moving when you're still plugged into the wall outlet. The next hour was a progression of events that saw me sitting on the ground with the back of my chair opened up as I went through everything trying to figure out what the ever-loving fuck was going on. I even called the police because I wasn't sure how I'd be able to get home. My wheelchair repair company doesn't have after-hour service. In the end, I discovered that two different things had gotten disconnected, and when I fixed them, my chair started up just fine. The lovely officer helped me get the cover back on my chair and, more importantly, helped me get safely back into my chair. I said fuck it, skipped the workshop, went home, showered the icky sidewalk off of me, and had a couple of beers. None of this would have happened if that entitled mother had just taken one goddamn second to fold her stroller up. Or, I don't know, stopped when I repeatedly asked her to. But no, she was far too important to do such basic shit like that. And yes, my wheelchair is actually $55,000. I know that sounds like a lot, but given that according to order form, I just looked at the joystick cover alone, is $85, it doesn't surprise me at all. It has 3 different tilt/adjustment settings that drives the cost up enormously. I love shouting at people who drive too close to me that my wheelchair costs more than their car. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Your chair costs more than Tesla. Comment 2. I'm sorry you went through all of this. OP. I've beat T with panic over mobility aids. The weirdest was when a hospital demanded my mother leave my forearm crutches with me while I was taken for surgery. She's always held my brother's wheelchairs and leg braces and my crutches and canes during such things. But this particular bitch of a nurse was adamant they be left with me. Yeah, no surprise they lost said crutches, my custom purple Ergo forearm crutches. When the item was described to the charge nurse, I thought she was going to kill my nerves for losing them, but they were finally found. People, including some medical personnel, sadly enough, can utterly lack comprehension on just how critical such things are. Comment 3. Wow, I didn't know people could be so stupid and impatient. Did you get the police do any investigation to find the EM? Plus, why was everyone not stopping the EM? It honestly hurt me to know some people care for themselves. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.